How would you like to be shut in a box for 6 months, cold and without sustenance? Well, of course you don't want to be locked in a box all winter, and neither do these babies. They need a little bit of nurturing. They need to be kept warm, or at least not freezing, and they need a bit of sustenance in the way of charging. In fact, leisure batteries hate to be cold, and if they freeze, they can die. So really you don't want to be leaving them in your van over the winter unless you can get some heat into it. And also they need charging because just even if they're not connected to anything, just left on their own, their charge will reduce, and if they get below 50%, it can be very difficult to bring them back up to any sort of level of usability. In fact, they may die if the charge falls below that level. So just like you and me, they need to be kept warm and cozy, and their little tummies need to be kept full. So how are you going to do that then? Because unlike Ermintrude here, who doesn't have any draw on her batteries over the winter, many newer vans have things like alarms which need to be kept going, and they draw on the leisure battery. So how do you keep the leisure battery charged and warm if it's in your van? Well, the answer to that is many people have 2 batteries, so they take one battery out every 6 weeks or 2 months and keep it charged, and leave the other battery in the van with a little bit of heat if they can to keep it warm. And then of course after the 2 months they swap them over. Well, that's all very well if your van is parked on your drive like ours is here, but what happens if it's parked on a storage facility some way from you? Well, there's no real easy answer to that, especially if you haven't got a hookup. Because although it's not too much of a hardship presumably to drive over and take one battery out and put the other one in, you've still got to keep the thing warm. So what we've done in the past when the van has been parked away from home is pack the battery with insulation, just the sort of stuff you get in Amazon packages and that sort of thing. And if the cold snap is not too intense and not too long, we found that that acts very well. But if you're going to get a long cold period, then we haven't found any other alternative but to take the battery out for a little bit of time and make sure it's warm. But do check with your insurers, because if you disable the alarm, they may not cover you. Keeping your battery charged is a lot easier, of course, if you're lucky enough like us to be on your drive, because you can keep the van plugged into the mains and use your 12-volt supply charging unit to keep the battery topped up over the winter, which you should do. If you're on a storage facility and don't have a hookup, which we have been in the past, then what we found is using one of these, a little solar panel, is adequate enough to keep the battery charged. Now that's a 20-watt one. What I do is just put a little frame for that and keep it outside the van and trail the leads in. The leads are quite long enough. Trail the leads in and connect it to the battery, and that will keep the battery topped up. What many people do is have solar panels in their front window and do it that way, but we find that that's quite a large expense, because you need a bigger solar panel, because the glass detracts from the sunlight and the solar panel doesn't charge quite so well. So once you've sorted all that out and you've got your battery charged or potentially charged and you're keeping it nice and warm and cozy, how do you check the condition of the battery? Well, you use a multimeter or a voltmeter. Now you can get good quality one of those from anywhere, Toolstation, Halford, Screwfix, that sort of place, and really you shouldn't have to pay more than £20 for a decent quality digital version. Now we call them 12-volt batteries, but that's in name only, because when they're at 12 volts they are discharged, so they're deemed to be in a discharged state, which seems a bit odd, I know. So you need to be checking with the multimeter that your battery is pushing out at least 12.7 volts when you can be pretty certain that it is fully charged. Now if that drops down to 12.5 volts, that's going to be about 75% charged. 12.4 volts is going to be about 50% charged, and so on down to 12 volts where it's deemed to be fully discharged. So you can see that you're going to need a decent quality multimeter that measures your voltage fairly accurately. And the little red, green, amber displays that a lot of us have on our control panels isn't really going to be enough for the job. So that's just about it really. It's common sense, isn't it? Just keep your batteries warm, at least not freezing, and keep them topped up. And then when you come back in next April or whenever you're going to use the van next, you'll find that the Leisure battery is raring to go and not dead, hopefully. Okay, thanks very much for watching. I would be very grateful if you could subscribe by clicking the icon down on the right of your screen, right bottom of your screen. And I will see you next time.